Battery is low. I have just got to recharge, recoup, and I'm going to be an administrator. But she always made it clear as time went on. As coaches say in our coaching world, she still had that fire in the belly. She was not through coaching. And in 1983, LSU made one of the greatest moves they have ever made. They hired Sue Gunter as their head coach. We did everything possible at SFA to counter, to try to keep Sue Gunter to be one of us, a Lady Jack, because she had put us on the national map. The entire university was known throughout the nation because of Lady Jack basketball. But nothing could hold Sue back, and she went to LSU. And as you well know, when she went to LSU, she did the same thing she did at Stephen F. Austin. She put the Lady Tigers on the map like she did us, and she kept them at the very top. Now, I will tell you that we were very close personal friends and always maintained that relationship. I went to many, and still do, women's Final Fours because it's just great to go to a major event like that. And as many of you know who've been or watched television, when you go in a major arena or coliseum, it has the 64 names around the top. And it's always great to see the name of Stephen F. Austin up there with the University of Texas, Louisiana Tech, Tennessee, those type of things. That came possible because of Sue Gunter. Sue and I would visit at the Final Four. And then, always, when we had a coaching vacancy, I would call Sue Gunter and I would tell her who the candidates were and who did she think was available, who was not a candidate, and, give me an assessment. Now, those of you who know Leon Barmore know that he can be very direct. Well, let me tell you, he would pale in comparison to Sue Gunter when she talked to me about our coaching candidates, as she did an analysis on people. And I have to tell you that on more than one occasion, when we had made the decision, and I always called Sue as a courtesy and told her who we had named, and she would say, "Baker, you have screwed up." And I would debate with her and tell her all the merits of Coach X and how great things were going to be. But I have to admit that history showed that Sue Gunter was right in some of those cases. And I was always honest with her about it. And she enjoyed kidding me. But I finally got a chance to get equal with Sue. Toward the end of her career, Sue called me one day and we had an opening. And she said, "Baker, I have a young man who's on my coaching staff. He is ready to be a head coach. I want you to interview him and give him serious consideration." And I said, "Sue, we are real close to naming our head coach." She said, "But Baker, you've got to give this young man a chance. He has the potential to do so-and-so, so-and-so." I said, "Okay, for you, Sue, I will do so." So the young man, we arranged an interview very rapidly. He came to Stephen F. Austin, and I interviewed him. He was very young. He was very nervous throughout the interview. But I kept thinking as the interview went on, there's nothing wrong with someone being young. Someone gave all of us a chance to be in the jobs we're in at an early age. And I understand being nervous in an interview. So with Sue Gunter saying he has such potential, I need to keep listening to what he is telling me. And we struggled through the interview, and at the very end, he wanted to wrap it up with his conclusion or summation, and he said, "Dr. Petillo, I want you to know how much I'm looking forward to being the head coach at Northwestern State University, and I want you to know how much my family and I are looking forward to living here in Natchitoches." Well, I tried to keep a straight face until he left the office, and I could not wait to call Sue. And the minute I called Sue, it was, "Baker, how did it go? Didn't I tell you about him so-and-so?" And I said, "Sue, you did. But let me tell you, the next time you coach one of your assistants or a coach to come for an interview at Stephen F. Austin, you need to explain the difference to them between Northwestern State University and Stephen F. Austin, and let them know we're located in Nacogdoches, Texas." So we had many great laughs over that as the years have gone on. And then the last time I saw Sue Gunter was alive, I guess, was in July 21, 2004, when John Branch and I attended a tribute that was given for her at LSU in the Pete Pavilion, in the Pete Maravich Pavilion. And it was an enormous event. And I will tell you, it was simply a gathering of who's who in American college basketball. The great coaches from the Judy Conrads and the Leon Barmores and the Nell Fortners and our own Gary Blair, all the Pat Summits, they were all present for this one, what we knew would be the last tribute to Sue Gunter. Sue Gunter was already seriously ill. She was not able to walk into the arena. They brought her in a medical, self-enclosed golf cart so she would not be exposed to the germs in the arena. But as all of you know Sue, she crawled out of that golf cart and she took the microphone and she spoke from her heart. And I tell you, I was so proud because throughout the entire ceremony, Stephen F. Austin was recognized just as much as LSU. And when they asked for all of us from SFA, the former players, administrators to stand, we had just as many people present as they did from LSU. It was a great tribute to us that night, and Sue paid us a great tribute that night. Approximately 1 year later, once again, John Branch and I went to Baton Rouge and I attended her funeral. And once again, we had a large number of individuals from Stephen F. Austin, and once again, all the coaches of the nation were present for her. And at that very time, I said, we are going to honor Sue Gunter at Stephen F. Austin. It is long past and it's overdue. And so I want to tell you that I'm very proud of the fact that last January 2007, our Board of Regents voted by unanimous vote to name our office complex the Sue Gunter Lady Jack Basketball Suite. Today we have either 5 or 6 of our regents present, and I would like to recognize these people at this time so you will acknowledge them once they're all standing for what they have done to recognize Sue Gunter. First, I would start with Miss Valerie Ertz, who's chair of our Board of Regents from Dallas. Valerie, if you'd please stand. Mr. Joe Max Green is secretary of our Board of Regents. Next is Mr. Bob Garrett from Tyler, Mr. James Dickerson from New Bronzeville, and Mr. Carlos Amaral. These are the individuals that we owe for taking this action, and we thank you so much.
I'm Leanne Riley, and I'm the luckiest person on earth because I am the head coach of Stephen F. Austin in women's basketball. And without everyone in this room, we are honoring Sue Gunter today, who to me gave all of us so many opportunities. And I'm lucky because I have this opportunity because of her vision, all the players that played for her that allowed my team. They are fixing to leave. We play Sam today at 3. They have to go get taped and all that stuff to get ready. But these young ladies have the opportunity today because of so many of y'all in this room that sweated and worked and believed it was important for women to play sports and play it at a high level. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for them because sometimes youth doesn't always buy into history, and I've been preaching it to them and preaching it to them this week of how wonderful it is what they get right now. They don't understand the shoes that y'all walked in for them to have the opportunities they have. And before they walk out the door, today will be the 800th victory for Lady Jack basketball. And I told them how fortunate they are to have a small, very small piece. Many of y'all in this room have such a bigger piece of those 800 wins, but for it to happen today, now we got to take care of business. For it to happen today, with so many of y'all back here for the first time in a long time, long overdue, we thank you for that. We are going to put that purple and white uniform on today and represent this program the way Sue represented it and the way y'all represented it. And that's with class, that's with character, and that's with heart. So thank you. Ladies, I'll see you in a minute. I'm a little country kid from Tyler that grew up wanting to coach here. I drove down, I watched so many of y'all play. I was in the stands. I was sitting, I can still, well, they didn't have seats back then. It was the little, just benches. And where I sat, I remember watching Coach Conrad's teams, Coach Barmore, sitting between them. I'm pinching myself. How lucky am I? I mean, just listening to them. They've been mentors to me for a long, long time. Coach Gunter was so good to me. When I got the job, she was so good to me. And she treated me as a person, not as her being above me. She treated me as a person, as a colleague, as a friend. And I didn't have that much opportunity to be around her, but if I needed her, I could call her. And she loved this school. And how lucky am I, and coaches in this room, and a lot of y'all are high school coaches. How lucky am I to have a president that is so passionate about women's basketball? Because it's not that way at a lot of schools. And I try to tell my players that, and hopefully it's sinking in. This is a special, special place. And many programs in the country wish they had what we had. And just to finish, to all the former players, please stay in contact with us. We've worked really hard. My secretary, Darba Rollins, God bless her for the hard work she's done in trying to locate everybody and get emails or phone numbers or addresses. And we know we've lost some. But please let us know where you're at. Stay in contact with us, because this is something that means, I think, to everybody in this room that was a Lady Jack, this saying, and we have it in the locker room, is once a Lady Jack, always a Lady Jack. Thank you.
That was me you pinched. Don't y'all throw anything at me. Listen, Leanne, thank you for inviting me today to speak at this event. Sue Gunter was probably the person my whole career that treated me with respect and just warmth, and just made me feel good every time I came in contact with her. So let me just take a few minutes and go back. You know, Connecticut and Tennessee the last few years has been the big game. TV, and all that's been the big game. Well, at one time, for about 3 or 4 or 5 years, I thought that big game was Stephen F. Austin and Louisiana Tech. Coach Barmore came on board at Tech in 1978. And for the first few years, I was the assistant coach with Ms. Hogue, but actually, she allowed me a lot of freedom and let me coach a little bit, and which I was glad for, because she was a wonderful lady that really started our program and got it to where it really is today. But the first year for me to coach, I'm going to tell you about my first 2 trips to Nacogdoches. I loved it. They were wonderful. My first year that I coached against Billy Moore at UCLA. I coached against Pat Summitt at Tennessee. I coached against Margaret Wade at Delta State. I coached against Dean Weiss at Wayland Baptist. And I believe it was my 3rd or 4th year before I ever had the opportunity to coach against Jody Conrad. Now, people, those are the names. And I am a rookie coach at Louisiana Tech playing those kind of people. Didn't realize how great they were until, later, but looking back, boy, that's pretty special. First trip to Nacogdoches. We are playing the game. I'm a rookie coach, and this place is full. We bring 3 busloads, and each time we played those years, it was full. It was packed. Rustin's gym, Stephen F. Austin's gym. And the game is going on, and I can tell you the starting lineup, and I will in just a minute, and I didn't have to go look this up either. I'm going to tell you about the second year. And I remember Terry Block. I didn't get to meet you a minute ago, but I know you shot the lights out. And Barbara Brown and Rosie Walker, and they had a center named Vanessa Anderson. Did I get that name right? and also was a point guard, Missy Weisinger. Hey, I'm in it. They left an impression on me. The game is going on, and I have a center named Pam Kelly that's pretty darn good. In fact, Pam Kelly and Rosie Walker in one of those games had about 40 points apiece, and one of the best shootouts of post people I ever saw. In fact, those two players, Rosie and Pam, were about the two best that's ever even played, period. Ever. But the game's going on, and I'm checking everything out. And we're getting down 5. We're getting down 6. And my post player's getting a foul or two on him. And I see Ms. Gunter. She's calling that official over here. And his name was Jimmy Rice. He here today? Jimmy here today? I know Sally Bell and Sue Kennedy are here. And what a wonderful gesture they've done, coming a long way to be a part of this. I got to see you a minute ago. But back to this game. So I see Sue holler, Jimmy, come here. And he'd run over there, and the next 2 or 3 plays, we'd have fouls. And this went on and on and on, and she goes, Jimmy, come over here. And boy, he'd run over, it's like Sue on a string over, and Sue bring him over there, and then, you know, I'm getting in deeper foul trouble. And I told Miss Hogue, I said, I tell you what, I'm finna call Jimmy over here. This is a true story. I think it was Jimmy, I'm pretty sure it was him. He called every time we were down here. I said, Jimmy, get over here. Jimmy ran over and kicked me out of the game. Well, this is true. I got to tell you this about Sue, though. I'm walking by Sue, and I promise you, I walked by. I actually sat down on her bench when I went by. I said, Sue, how can you call Jimmy over here like that? And I promise you, I'm close to what she said. It's been so long, but she said, Leon, you just got to learn how to talk to him. Second trip to Nacogdoches, and I'll make this quick. Man, I thought I had it down. I never played a zone. We usually played man, but I was going to play zone that night, and we was going to, if Black was hitting it in the corner, we were going to send the forward out and drop a guard in front of Rosie Walker. And you know, because we're trying to keep both of them from beating us, and then Weisinger and Brown. But anyway, I think this was the game. I'm pretty sure. I may be off on, but I know the end results. I know this. We're ahead, 1 point. Stephen F. shooting a free throw. There's 10 or 12 seconds. And I'm close on this, Barbara. I'm telling you. I had time to reflect when I was coming down here. But anyway, Stephen F. misses a free throw. My little point guard was named Marinelle Kendrick, and she blocked the free throw shooter out, got the rebound. Now here's the rebound, here's the shooter, there's the sideline. Marinelle dribbles to her left. And this girl behind her, they collide. You know what the call was, don't you? Old Jimmy. I can see this like it was yesterday. They throw it in, and Barbara Brown makes a basket with 1 second to go, didn't you, darling? And we get beat 83-82.